Hey, it's Ron, and I want to tell you a story about business and how that story changed everything. Have you ever read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? It's the novel that tells a whole story built around this unreliable universal encyclopedia, which updates itself whenever some traveler through the galaxy with questionable judgment decides to add something new. One page claims to explain the meaning of life, and the next describes an entire species as mostly harmless. It's half insight, half chaos, and this encyclopedia is all crowd-edited. When I first read it, I remember thinking, this is entertaining, but nobody would ever trust a real source built this way. There's too many voices, too many opinions, too many people correcting each other, which gives them the opportunity to argue over every word. It felt like the kind of system that would collapse the moment you open the doors and let everybody take part. But it also felt kind of intriguing, even before anything like that existed. Because once you strip out the comedy, the idea underneath is pretty simple. What if knowledge didn't belong to a publisher or a committee or a university? And what if people everywhere could write it, improve it, debate it, and repair it? If someone pitched that in a boardroom in the late 1990s, it would have died in the first meeting. There's no control over it, there's no ownership, there's no way to protect the content, and certainly there was no way to turn it into a business. But the joke is this: the sci-fi version wasn't as fictional as it looked. It was actually a preview. Because the world eventually built its own version of that chaotic, collective, wildly ambitious encyclopedia, and the moment it arrived, the way we thought about information and trust started to shift. Okay, but what happens when the world decides that expertise doesn't have to come from a gatekeeper? How far can a chaotic, volunteer-built project go once people realize they can shape knowledge themselves? And on January 15th, 2001, how did the launch of one unconventional online encyclopedia start rewriting our ideas about information and trust? From Business Basics, I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast where we explain the stories that changed business forever. Every date on the calendar has a story where business reshaped the world. Today, January 15th, that story takes us to 2001, when knowledge left the bookshelf. Jimmy Wales didn't set out to start a global revolution in information. He was running a small web portal called BOMAS, best known for search directories and curated links, not exactly a launch pad for a new era of knowledge. But Jimmy had one persistent frustration. Even as the internet grew, reliable information still lived behind gates. Encyclopedias were expensive. Academic sources were locked behind subscriptions. News outlets controlled the narrative and guarded their archives. The web was supposed to be open to the world, but it didn't feel open. Around the same time, a man by the name of Larry Sanger entered the picture with a similar irritation. He had the academic instinct for structure, clarity, and verification, but he hated how slow traditional publishing moved. The two men shared an odd mix of optimism and impatience. They wanted something faster, freer, and more collaborative, even if they didn't know yet what that meant. Their first attempt was called Newpedia, and it was everything the old world wanted. Articles written only by experts, peer-reviewed, thoroughly vetted, and it was a disaster. 7 articles published in the first year. 7. Obviously, the process was too slow, too rigid, and too academic to ever scale up to cover all of the information in the world. What stuck with Jimmy, though, wasn't the failure. It was the bottleneck. The system collapsed under its own rules, and once he admitted that, a different idea crept in. Maybe the bottleneck wasn't the writers. Maybe the bottleneck was the gatekeepers. The internet didn't need another encyclopedia that felt like a boardroom project. It needed something that felt like the web itself. Messy, fast, collaborative, and alive. Wales didn't know the shape of it yet, but he knew the direction. Open the doors. and let's see what happens. The turning point came from a simple suggestion Sanger tossed into a discussion forum. What if they built a side project where anyone could draft articles freely without approvals or delays? It's just an experiment, what we call a sandbox, a place to write fast, revise fast, and see what emerged. And here's the thing, it wasn't meant to replace anything, it was just meant to loosen the gears. They called the experiment Wikipedia, which was a mashup of wiki, the Hawaiian word for quick, and encyclopedia, the thing they were supposedly trying to fix. The name sounded lightweight, almost temporary, which was the point. Nobody expected it to matter. But the moment the site went live, something happened that neither of them planned. Articles started appearing in minutes, not months. Strangers showed up and corrected errors before Sanger or Wales even saw them. People added sources, rewrote sloppy lines, and built topics that weren't on any official list. It wasn't polished, it wasn't controlled, but it was moving. Within days, Wikipedia had more activity than Nupedia had had in its entire existence. Wales watched the traffic logs spike. Sanger watched the drafts multiply. And both men realized the uncomfortable truth. The crowd wasn't the problem. The crowd was the engine. It was a pivot they couldn't walk back. The moment real people, not experts, not institutions, started building the knowledge base themselves, the project flipped from an experiment into a movement, and quietly, without ceremony, a new model took shape. Authority built from participation, accuracy built from revision, and trust earned through transparency rather than credentials. By the time the first week ended, the old model of knowledge really kind of looked outdated. Something entirely new had begun to take its place.
Obtén tu diploma de secundaria por ti y por tu familia. Visita completatudiploma.org para encontrar centros educativos gratuitos cerca de ti. Presentado por Dollar General Literacy Foundation y The Ad Council.
In the weeks after the launch, Wikipedia stopped being an experiment and started behaving like an ecosystem. Articles multiplied faster than Wales and Sanger could track. Topics appeared that no traditional encyclopedia would have bothered with. People fixed each other's mistakes, argued in edit summaries, added sources, trimmed nonsense, and built structures as they went. It was messy, unpredictable, and completely alive. That was the moment Wales saw the real shift. Nupedia had tried to imitate the old world. Experts at the top, everyone else at the bottom. Wikipedia flipped that hierarchy. Authority came from doing the work, not holding a title. Accuracy became a moving target, something constantly refined rather than declared complete. And the community itself became the product. Traditional publishers dismissed it as an amateur hour chaos. Academics warned that letting everyone write the truth would destroy the truth. But the users kept showing up, and the more they showed up, the more the old business model cracked. Encyclopedias could no longer justify charging hundreds of dollars for a static set of books when a living, breathing alternative updated itself for free. What surprised Wales actually wasn't the scale, it was the speed. The internet had created plenty of big projects, but none where strangers collaborated this fast, this openly, with no ownership pulling the strings. You couldn't buy Wikipedia, you couldn't control it, you could only participate in it. And that participation reshaped the economics of knowledge. If information could be created and corrected by the public, then authority itself had to be redefined. The power shifted from publishers and towards the people doing the work. And that shift began on January 15, 2001. I'm Ron Trucks, and this is Business History, the daily podcast that finds the turning points behind the headlines. To hear more stories like this, follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or YouTube or wherever you listen. And if you're enjoying the stories, please don't forget to subscribe and leave a quick review. It helps more people find the story behind the business. And if you actually want to understand business without the fluff, the buzzwords, or the MBA language, start by visiting businessdailypodcast.com.
We all crave something new. At Hertz, new is what we're all about. New adventures, new experiences. When you book with us, you'll be cruising in our newest fleet yet. New features, new tech, and of course, that new car smell. All that wonderful newness, all with no strings attached. So go on, book your new car fling at Hertz.com. Your old car at home never has to know.